Is DC Comics collapsing, or is it just a change in direction due to a change in leadership? Many saw it as a bad sign that they cancelled the nearly complete Batgirl, along with several other projects like Scooby-Doo and Supergirl. However, this mentality plays into the sunk cost fallacy. Might as well release it at this point to get some of the cost back, right? Even if it's bad, it's still free money. But this is fairly short-sighted, and the new executives from the merger between Discovery and Warner understand this. If you make a terrible movie starring Batgirl, but then learn from your mistakes and make a better product later on, it's still not going to do well because you've already formed a reputation around her. It may save you a few bucks in the short term, but in the long term you'll lose far more money. Their new CEO put it perfectly when he said that our job is to protect the DC brand. Now you can, and many have pointed out that the DC brand is already pretty damaged, so why are you singling out these properties in particular? Now, of course, commentators on the left have been arguing that this is because the film is ethnically diverse and has Muslim directors. People on the right, funnily enough, are actually saying something similar, arguing that the suits are finally reining in the woke people in Hollywood. They say this because the film race-swapped Batgirl and it has a prominent transgender character in it. Now, I don't believe the majority of them object to the existence of trans people here, but rather they see this as Hollywood pushing this on people, promoting it to them, and trying to turn more people trans. However, it is far more likely that this is just a business decision, as all signs point to the film being an absolute mess. The director's recent project was Miss Marvel, and despite this article saying it got good notice, that pretty much just means that Hollywood approved of its message. Sure, it got good reviews by approved reviewers, but it was a bit of a disaster with actual viewers. But maybe this was just a fluke, as most directors have a few bad projects. And after all, a show is only as good as its screenwriter, so maybe, and the screenwriter wrote Birds of Prey. Great. Just to give you a picture of how politically preachy and polarizing this film was, Grace Randall from Beyond the Trailers, who's very left-wing by the way, argued that the film hated on men too much. If it was too much for her, you can imagine how much it pushed other people away. But don't mistake this for the suits pushing back on ideology. They would just like to keep their audiences. At the end of the day, this is a business and the suits want to make money. There's also the fact that if you push everyone away from your products except for the people who already agree with you, then there's not much point in the propaganda, as you would just be preaching to the choir at that point. The suits would very much like to get back to 2014-ish, where the people on the right didn't really notice the propaganda in films. They still want to push their ideology, they would just like to do it in a more subliminal and effective manner. So if they achieve their goals with their new structural changes, the good news for the right is that entertainment will seem less woke. The bad news for them is that it will turn more people woke, including possibly them on some issues. For the left, the bad news is that you won't be able to exclude people you disagree with, and you won't be able to destroy IP you find problematic. The good news is that you will be more effective and successful because of that. Now, as to whether they will succeed or not really depends on this restructuring. Zaslav is talking about trying to have a central figure run DC while having someone right above him managing all of Warner properties as a whole. The CEO, meaning him, would also be more involved and understanding of the properties being worked on. This general strategy is them trying to copy Disney's success under Bob Iger, which to that point, ever since Iger left the company, things have been going downhill for them without any change in direction in sight. So even though the shakeup at Warner might seem disastrous in the immediate term, it's better to jump off a moving train than to stay on it while it flies off a cliff. It's also not as bad as it seems, as they will be able to use this as a tax write-off. At the moment, it seems like Disney is riding the train all the way, while Warner is taking the necessary risks. As for the success of their strategy, a company's success is less dependent on their systems and more dependent on the people within those systems. It's similar to government in that sense, where an efficient system can certainly help and optimize the outcomes, but if you have a bad leader, it really doesn't matter how good your systems are, you're still going to fail. You can also have an effective leader that can make the best out of a bad system. So ultimately, the success of DC Comics and Warner Discovery as a whole really relies on David Zaslav and the people he puts in place. Regardless, any changes he makes today likely won't be seen by audiences for some time. We'll have to wait and see how things turn out in the long run. But DC and Warner have had many shakeups over the years, and none of them were particularly successful. This suggests that the problems are endemic at the company, and it will take quite a bit to change things for the better. I personally think things will get a little better, but not by much. Short of a full audit of the company, it's going to be difficult for Zaslav to enact a lasting change, as established organizations are very resilient to change. What do you think about this shakeup? Do you think Zaslav is on the right track with these cancellations? And do you think he will succeed in transforming the company? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice day.